Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Small Business Show right here at ASBN.com. Many would say that swimming in a lake or at the beach is the best way to enjoy the water, but that's only if you haven't experienced a beautiful coastal ride on a boat. Today's guest is not only an expert on boats, but also on building a business from scratch into a $100 million industry leader. Steve Potts is the founder and CEO of Scout Boats, and he's just released his new book, Boat Boy, with Forbes Books. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I must admit, and a full disclosure to our audience, I love the boats that Steve builds. I'm a huge fan. So, having said that, could you share with us more about Scout Boats and what inspired you to launch the company?
Yeah, I've been in the boat business since I was 14 years old. I started very young. And I've always been queer for building boats. It's kind of something that is hard to describe, but it's always been in my blood. And then worked for a number of different companies. And then in 1989, my wife was working in a hospital, and I was managing a boat manufacturer here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I always have told people that I've learned what not to do. Having worked for a number of different companies, you kind of get a pretty good handle on how to deal with people, and it's a labor-intense process, and so you really have to wrap yourself around the people that are building the boats.
Yeah, it's also a capital-intense project and company. One doesn't just go out and start a boat company, right? Talk to me about the early days. How do you put together enough capital there to say, hey, we're gonna build boats?
What happened with me was 2 years before I started Scout, there was a SBDC seminar on how to start your own boat, how to start your own business.
Okay.
A small business development center.
Yep, we work with them. Yeah,
One
they're
of the
great.
local colleges here, and so I signed up for it. There was about 200 of us in the audience, and the guy that came out on the stage and was a speaker started reading off statistics right away. Instead of 200 of you, after the season, only 18 of you are going to start your own business. And after 1 year, there'll be, 8 of you left.
Wow.
And at the end of 5 years, there'll be 1.2% of you left. So it was a pretty demoralizing experience for me. And I kind of describe it as a way that I was kind of forced to not fail because I wanted to prove that I'm better than the odds.
Yeah. Wow. That is fantastic. So now you decide, I'm going to hang in with this. Do you go out and sign up a bunch of dealers, or do you go and hunt down a bank or some kind of finance person to help you launch this?
Yeah, one of the things that was talked about in that seminar was how to start your own business and how to come up with the funding.
Yeah.
And as a rule, they say that you only start with 1/3 of your own money, 1/3 borrowed money, and 1/3 investors.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. I started with $50,000 that my wife and I put aside. And she quit her job at a hospital, and I quit my job working what I did, and we started Scout Boats. Now,
wow.
I've been a boat builder all my life, and so I haven't been in boat manufacturing all my life. I didn't know anything about sailing or selling boats or marketing them. And so we would build I built a 14 and 15 foot boat that were unique, and started out on myself, my wife and I and a helper would start building boats. And I built a 14, 15 foot boat every 4 or 5 days, and then I'd hit the road, and I was a carpetbagger. I would go to back then, this is in 1989, I used to stop up and down Interstate 95 and Highway 17 between here and Florida, stop at the gas stations and tear out the yellow pages for boat dealerships. And I would go beating on doors and had a card and had a flyer, and that's how I started.
Wow.
I got thrown out about 99% of the places I went into. It was a tough beginning.
Yeah, because to enter the boat industry, I own a boat myself, and you've got so many big brands out there that are well established that you're up against, right? I mean, it isn't like somebody's going to suddenly say, "Okay, forget Sea Ray, I'm going in with Scout," right?
Yeah, it was tough beginnings because we were a Scout who nobody knew who
Right.
we were. What I did is I carved out some uniqueness to our designs, and we basically we entered into the coastal fishing boat market. In that market back then, it was pretty crude.
Yeah.
Boats were just utilities.
Yeah.
And I realized that most of the people that were buying these boats, the evolution of pickup trucks, when they had no leather seats, no carpet in them,
Right.
they evolved and they started getting nicer.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
the business that we were in. And so I wanted to basically create something that was similar to what was happening in the automotive industry.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I would imagine that, like the automotive industry, you eventually decided, okay, I've got to set up now a network of dealers that are going to be buying these boats from you, right?
Yeah, we had 6 dealers that I had established just by beating the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a trade show in November of 1990, which is about a year after we started. And we scraped up enough money to have a display there. And this is the beginning of the recession.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
1992 was the beginning of the recession. So everybody told me I was crazy for getting into business and doing what I'm doing. But I pushed back on that, and we went into that show with 6 dealers. And we came out of that trade show. It's in the World Congress Center in Atlanta.
Yep.
We came out of that show with a list of 31 dealers that wanted to sell our products.
Wow, good for you.
So ever
That's
since then, it's
amazing.
been to manage a growing business.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And they all wanted orders immediately, right? Because many of the business owners that I talk to say, it's one thing to have a problem that you don't have enough orders. And then all of a sudden when that changes and Costco calls, or in your case, these 31 dealers that go, great, now we need boats. That's a whole new set of problems, right?
Yeah, it was, and looking back on it, I've always been a planner, and I had my business plan when I started the company.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first year we did like $260,000 in business.
Okay.
After that boat show, I had my spreadsheet out during Christmas, and I showed my wife. I said, next year we're going to do $897,000 worth of business.
Wow.
And she fell out of the chair laughing.
Quadruple your business in 1 year.
That year of 1991, we did over $1 million worth of business.
Wow.
So we exceeded our plans every year since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough year. The only year we've ever lost money was in 2009 during the financial crisis.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
We've been growing and putting the money back into business every year.
Yeah. Do you still own the business today? Forgive me for not knowing that, but you still own the business today?
With my family.
Okay.
I have my son and my 2 daughters all work for their business, all work for the company,
Okay.
and their spouses all work for the company.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great.
We have a little more than 400 employees now, and I don't have 400 family members, so it's important that they understand.
Maybe if they give you a few grandkids, right? You get them started.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so tell me about this great book that you wrote. What was the motivation behind writing it, and what do you want the reader to leave with?
Well, I started, a good friend of mine is a guy named Ed Marinero.
Okay.
Ed Marinero was a Cornell graduate. He was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that name. Yeah.
And he was Sergeant Coffee in Hill Street Blues.
Yep.
He was an actor, and,
Yep.
and he was the Italian stallion upstairs above Laverne and Shirley.
Yep.
He had his acting roles, and he and I become good friends. We're neighbors, and became good friends. And so we fished all over the world together.
Okay.
We were in Mexico bone fishing together, and I used to always call him Hollywood, and he would always call me Boat Boy.
Right.
We were together after a few beers. He looked around at me and he said, Boat Boy, I don't appreciate you calling me Hollywood. And I said, I don't particularly appreciate you calling me boat boy.
That's right.
After I decided to do the book, I need to come up with a name for the book, and I just thought boat boy was appropriate.
That's great. Do you tell that story in the book?
I did. I told that story in the book.
So that's great. And then what do you want the reader to leave with? What's the objective of the book?
Well, one of the things that I tried to, when I made a decision to do the book, and I met with a good friend of mine, was friends with the people at Forbes, which has an office here in Charleston. Went to lunch with them one day, and they asked me 10,000 questions about my life, what I've been through.
Yeah.
And after that lunch, they said, we need to do a book. So we hired a ghostwriter, which was somebody that was a professor at the College of Charleston.
Okay.
And we met for 3 hours every week for about a year. And he'd ask me a bunch of questions about my life. And I wanted the book to be more about my experiences. I wanted to basically tell the story of how I've struggled to start my own business.
Yeah.
And how I refused to fail.
Yeah.
We started the business in February 1989, and we started in a brick stable, a horse stable. And in September 22nd of that year, Hugo wiped it out.
Wow.
Having the insurance.
Oh my gosh.
Already been through most of our $50,000.
Oh.
So after we could get to the horse stable, we brick by brick unburied what we could unbury and salvage what we could salvage.
Sure.
We moved to a galvanized pole building that's not too far from our campus today.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a 3-car garage with a dirt floor.
Yeah.
And the worst snowstorm that Charleston's ever had was in December 23rd of that same year, 2.5 months later.
Wow.
The roof had buckled from the weight of the snow. So not being a very religious person, after I went up and saw the building and saw all the snow dumped on top of what I had worked my whole life for,
Sure.
I looked to heavens and said, give me a break. I mean, I'm working my tail off. Just
right,
give me
right.
And these natural disasters was something that was something you just got to deal with. But I tell people that I get up every morning, I put one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I went to work.
Yep.
I worked for 12, 13, 15-hour days and overcame them obstacles, but I never, ever had any inclination of wanting to quit or wanting to go back to work for somebody.
Wow, that's great.
Make this work.
That is fantastic. By the way, did you also find in those catastrophes that you went through there that people's boats were gone and they needed a new boat? Maybe there was also some opportunity there.
That is true. You know, one of the highlights of our business was during the COVID years.
Yes. Oh, couldn't buy a boat during COVID. I mean,
everybody wanted to be on the water because they could be protected with their family and
that's right.
Be, away from anything that was infectious.
That's right.
And so it did more for our industry than anything that's ever happened since.
Yeah, it really did, as well as the RV industry and the auto industry and
any recreational industry really exploded during that period of time.
Yeah, no question about it. Wow, that's fantastic. So when Brunswick calls and says, we want your phenomenal business, Steve, is there a number that the family gets together and says, we're all in, let's go, or you want to keep it in the family?
Well, it's always been my dream to have a successionary business, to have a business that's generational, that would outlive me long after I'm gone.
Sure.
I want this business to stay in my family.
Sure.
There's been temptations because when interest rates were zero,
right,
private equity companies were coming out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even today, I get emails every week.
Yeah, I bet.
Of somebody that wants to buy the business because there's not very many independents left.
That's right.
I've always had that determination that I'm going to succeed. This business is going to succeed me in my family.
That's good. That's the spirit for sure. I'm sure the family appreciates that as well. Hey, if you had to come up with one piece of advice for our entrepreneurial community that's watching right now that is inspired by your story, because a lot of people that are right on the cusp of either jumping in and opening up a business or on the cusp of jumping out because of those catastrophes that you just mentioned, although their own, for whatever reason that they're going through them at the time. Maybe it's not enough orders. Maybe they can't get the necessary funding, whatever it might be. What would your advice be to them?
You have to have a great deal of passion about whatever it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle, and it's a passion for me. And even though today I don't need to be in here every day, I've got president of the company, we got people in positions. Mm-hmm. So the company at some point in time becomes a life of its own. Yeah. And I'm just steering it. And it's kind of like steering a giant ship with a little tiny rudder. You keep trying to make it go in a certain direction. And so my face here and my job today is to be inspirational for my employees. Mm-hmm. To motivate them in every way I can. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's a labor-intense business, and if there was ever a boat building machine, I'd be the first in line to buy one, because dealing with people is one of the most challenging things in the world. But if you surround yourself with the right group of people, and you'll be successful as they are. That's right.
That's right. No question about it. Steve Potts, founder and chief inspirational officer at Scout Boats. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm going to show the book right now. It's Boat Boy. Now you know the story behind the title of the book, which is fascinating. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We're going to have a link right below this interview so you can get your copy of the book as well, which I highly recommend if you're thinking about going into business or you're in business now. It is a great business book, and it's a great family story. So thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.